the team have been working on the dynamic routine over the winter months and hope you enjoyed the visual spectacle as much as the Falcons enjoy flying it. They've built the snake formation by turning 180 degrees back into the jump direction. As you can see, they're very close to each other, guys, which takes a lot of concentration and manoeuvrability skill. They practice and practice and practice to put on these displays for you today, so we hope that you enjoy it. Look at them go! As they're approaching the drop zone, make sure they get cheering for them because they can't hear you, believe it or not, for our communications.
Nice.
They're following into the sabre chase now, so this is a quite tight formation, and as they come closer to the ground they'll split into something called ducks, which is two different sabre chases, which will go left and right onto the green and orange left and right indicators, like I said before. As they come closer to the ground they can't hear you, so again, please give it up, a big cheers for the RAF Falcons! Come into the drop zone. The first is Flight Sergeant Mark Clayton, Sergeant Marcus Shields, Sergeant Jed Evans, Sergeant Luke Bees, Sergeant Matt Hyam, who Jeffrey the Giraffe is flying in with today. And last but not least,
no, he's got it on his foot there.
We haven't quite finished.
Two. Because it's in fact their third lightning. Sorry, I've got to add my little bit. I'll shut up.
And it was around the time of this air show last year that it was announced that Britain is going to buy 12 of the CTOL conventional takeoff and landing F-35A models, the same sort of Lightning as is used by the US Air Force's 48 fighter wing at RAF Lakenheath in Suffolk, specifically with the new of its own, able to defend its airspace. This is very much now a NATO task, and the F-35Bs have played their part. So now if you do look again to your left-hand side, the aircraft slowing down. I'm expecting that big door on the back of the aircraft to be opening, bringing the lift fan into operation. As amazing F-35B moves in to the hopper part.
performance takeoff, isn't it?
Of thrust. So this aircraft has more thrust than weight, so it can climb forever, and it also has the capability of hovering. Another hovering aircraft today, but I think substantially less expensive than the previous.
So we've seen an incredible power to weight ratio demonstrated throughout this display. Before we get the next burst of jet noise, Colin, what sort of engine controls does he have in the cockpit, given the two different types of power plants?
Yes, it's a hybrid aircraft indeed, so he has the main usual throttle, and at the end of the throttle, then there's just enough room to get two fingers on two slide controls for the two electronically controlled jet engines.
Now this is a beautiful manoeuvre, a partial flat inverted circle.
Aircraft. Obviously we've got jet engines attached to tiny, as mentioned. Wow. Normal straps aren't sufficient to hold a pilot to, like this Richard is, to the aircraft. He's ratchet strapped to the aircraft with 3 people.
Then, like today, it's made up of volunteers. And today, very special for you guys, the formation is made up of 2-time Boeing AH-64E Apaches, call signs Eagle 1 and 2, and 1 Leonardo 8 points to the airfield. You see the first manoeuvre of the display. It's Eagle 3, look, pull a 270 wing over. This is the aircraft. Nose up. Back. Turning the aircraft 270 degrees away from you inbound. On the right now, you see Eagle 1 and 2, pull up your 180 wing over, pulls up. Then exit and fly back towards the centre of the airfield. Here, I'm looking incredibly hard to maintain information during these complex maneuvers. When we train to do this, on the Apaches at deck, now we can see the wall captain up to stick, that's its own 180 degree wing over, or route back towards us. The wing over being one of the most efficient ways for a helicopter to perform a U-turn as quickly as possible. Back over to the left now, you'll see Eagle 1 and Eagle 2 pull up, and they'll be flying an even more dynamic wing over this time, looking to pull up to 60 degrees nose up rather than 45 degrees the first time, demonstrating the remarkable manoeuvrability of what is incredibly heavy aircraft, either way up to 10 tons. Coming to your front now, we get a first close look at Eagle 3. Unique opportunity to see it close up for the first time. And now, ladies and gentlemen, special treat, a new manoeuvre for this year. Eagle 1 and Eagle 2 fly the most complicated profile display. The mirrored 360 degree wing over. Consistency is both aircraft, 60 degrees nose up, roll to 90 degrees angle of bank. However, now the pilots look to return the aircraft and move their shoulders to 360 degrees. Meanwhile, in depth, you'll see Eagle 3 on a 270 wing over before it moved up to a left. Shortly, you'll see the Wildcat enter rapid climb. This can be used operationally to climb through the small armoured threat band and shows the true power of its engines, each producing over 1,300 horsepower. Now, the great opportunity to grab a photo of the aircraft with the same camera frame for the first time. Blue Eagles will now do an opposition pass to the centre of the airfield, leading through the Wildcat as they fly out. Having safely passed one another, Eagles 1 and 2 are now pulling up for what is also known as tactically the return target. Operationally, this manoeuvre can be employed to rapidly achieve height, turn the aircraft to 180 degrees. In the Apache's case, to then employ a 30mm cannon or 2.7-inch rockets onto a target. This is particularly useful in the low-level environment, where the enemy may attempt to ambush or take opportunistic shots at the Apaches as they thunder overhead en route to another mission. Here the Apaches will look to return fire rapidly, as quickly as possible, in order to neutralise that enemy threat. Heading over to right now, Eagle 1 and 2, and then prime to 70-degree period wing over. Interestingly, this is now when the formation will split into 3 individual aircraft, with the Eagle 6 exiting the wing over early, whilst the Atlantic Eagle 3's lane. Adding new complexity to the display, demonstrating the coordination and cooperation of each of the crew as they continue to conduct and fly their own manoeuvres, whilst always ensuring they're aware where the other 2 aircraft are at any space given time. Third back to stand by. The crew also qualified for coordinating the back into space. Setting right, and then right down, to the left, and then we'll be manoeuvring quickly at lower speeds. Again, a great opportunity either to accommodate the object or as the aircraft track the cruise head, they're capable of engaging targets by the right side. Right to do the target, squeeze the trigger, then you got this ability cannon round to put up right. Circular M261 You'll have also noticed the donut on the top, also known as the fire control radar. This can detect 1,024 targets, including small drones.
Really?
Prioritise 256 of these and shoot the most dangerous 16. All in the meantime, passing all the others it's found via a data network to other aircraft to engage. Now, as you can see, the Blue Eagles reposition Eagle 3, the Wildcat, today was flown by Captain Cy Bowen, Major Calvin White, and crewed by Sergeant Danny Richmond. Blue Eagle 1 was flown today by Major Rob McCrae, Major Bridge Najar. Blue Eagle 2 was flown by Mr. Jim Traher, one of our ex-military Apache instructors, now employed by Boeing, civilians instructor, 7th Regiment, and in the front seat crew, Captain Adam Roberts. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the 2026 Army Air Corps display team.
Nice, beautiful.
It's not just the crews who get the aircraft here, it takes every member of the 1st Aviation Brigade.
Well, that was very graceful, wasn't it? That was nice, man.
What a beautiful debut display from Brad Lefley Kemp with the RAF Shawbury Gliding Club ASK-21. Well done, Brad.
Go on, look at those speed brakes.
He wants to...
Oh.
Once again, this will be very, very loud, so make sure you have your children close at hand from the right.
Come on.
Royal Air Force Typhoon. Directly in front of you. Once again, one of those Derry rolls to reposition, named after John Derry, very famous test pilot and display pilot from the 1950s, where you roll the aircraft in one direction but turn in the other. So here's Tom pushing the aircraft round, hanging in his straps, -3G, very uncomfortable. Being to turn the aircraft through turning those throttles up even further, just below 700 miles per hour on
Send
this pass. As he goes into a high-speed double aileron roll. Just listen now how that sound has decreased. We've gone from 700 miles per hour all the way down. Slow speed's so important in any aircraft, especially in an interceptor. Typhoons have been called upon to intercept what we call general aviation aircraft and also helicopters. So here the speed bleeds right off. We're down to 130, 140 knots here. With a bit of headwind, that will look even slower. Indeed, after that last pass, the aircraft just seems to be hanging in the air. This is Flight Lieutenant Top Nation in the Royal Air Force Typhoon.
Send it. I don't think he's finished yet. He's not done yet. Get ready. Is he? Hole in the sky coming up.
Good, Tom.
Come on.
Good, Tom. Send it.
Yeah.
You've had your Hercules, you've had your Typhoons. Now we need to go back to where it all began, back in the skies over western France in 1940. I'd say running in from your left, but I'm afraid it's something more like walking. You might see a small squadron of machines coming by, leading an Allied patrol of SE-5s in Nieuports. Unfortunately, they've not spotted the danger behind them of a German Jagdstaffel coming in for the hunt.
Oh wow, this is going to be good. This is absolutely hello. There's like explosions, there's all sorts going on.
Now we've already seen the anti-aircraft gunfire coming up, but early on in the war, aircraft weren't armed at all. Originally, aircraft were used to take photos of the enemy lines to try and see where troops could be moved on. But very quickly, it was decided that something had to be done to stop each other. Weapons ranged from pistols, to rifles, to hand grenades, until we finally reached machine guns. you'll hear me refer to these men as boys a lot, and that's not out of disrespect. The youngest pilots in the Royal Flying Corps were only 16.
What?
And my mum wouldn't even let me have a motorbike when I was 16. Considering the first aircraft flew in 1903, these boys had to learn how to fly at the same time as they were learning how to fight. Enter that now classic World War I dogfight where you turn hard, hoping you could outturn your enemy, pulling the stick back hard into your stomach just to get a bead on them? Or was it better to sneak up behind, to get in hard, hit hard, and fast, without them ever knowing you were there, to literally shoot them in the back? Artillery fire and combat conditions. Now the way to get performance out of these aircraft was to make them as light as possible so the engine wasn't doing too much work. And the lightest possible materials they had was wood covered with fabric, much like your grandma's armchair. Now, I'll be honest, if I'm facing two pairs of machine guns, I usually want something a bit stronger than wooden fabric behind me.
Yeah. Pilots didn't have a choice, and they had to make it work, and many of them did incredibly successfully. Names like Voss, Mannock, McCudden, Bishop all made huge talents for themselves, with the name Richtofen rising up. But in reality, although we have this image of Knights of the Air dueling for supremacy, it wasn't the enemy that was the main risk here. 60% of pilots would be killed in training, with a lack of any training program to really get them flying. accumulator.
Also provided electric controls for the turbo superchargers on the Wright Cyclone engines. The Americans had hoped that heavily armed bombers would not need fighter escorts for the entire duration of their sorties in the European theatre. That was very quickly proved wrong, but it took a long time for the ideal escort fighters to become available to the 8th Air Force. Here, though, we see two of them. The Republic P-47D Thunderbolt and an Australian-built version of the North American P-51D Mustang forming up on the B-17.
Slice of history in the sky here. The whole concept of the Fly Fortress was this: it could protect itself. Didn't quite work out like that at the time. The aircraft that could escort were fairly short range. And I think it really all came to a head on the 17th of August 1943. The infamous Schweitzer-Regensburg raid, ball bearing plants and a Messerschmitt plant deep into Germany. 376 B-17s were involved and 60 aircraft were lost. That's a loss of 16% of the bombers that took part. Bear in mind, a tour at that time on the B-17 was 25 missions. Crew had to complete 25 missions before any chance of going home. And 16%, that's 1 in 6, was lost on that one raid.
Your point.
From bases in East Anglia, the 8th Air Force was operating by daylight, the sort of missions that the RAF, as I said, had abandoned. They were flying against German industrial facilities and transport and resupply networks, and that lack of fighter escorts early on, or lack of suitable fighter escorts early on, really did hit them hard. RAF Spitfires could hardly escort the American bombers any distance into Europe, but the P-47 and the P-51 in particular that we've just seen with the B-17 changed all of that. Air Force flying from their bases in East Anglia. They were flying at high altitude. It was noisy. It was horrendously cold. They didn't have very much armour plating to protect them. And of course there was the ever-present threat of enemy action, whether in the form of flak or fighters. And even though the B-17 was an incredibly tough airframe, able to withstand tremendous amounts of battle damage, these so often proved fatal. Is also just phenomenal. When we think there was a time during 1944 when 40 42 airfields in the UK were home to B-17s. Generally, the idea was there'll be up to 36 on an airfield. Just imagine an airfield with 36 of these. And for a standard raid, getting airborne at just after first light, sometimes as early as that, sometimes a little bit later, there could be 200, 300 aircraft spiralling up from airfields. And because even when escorted, these aircraft flew in very tight formations. It was all part of that. If we fly together, we defend each other. And those squadrons that were not so good at formation flying, that was clear. And the German pilots knew that and would single them out. So in addition to everything else going on, you've also got to fly very, very tight formation. Hundreds of aircraft in the sky at any one time.
And not just B-17s, the consolidated B-24 Liberators as well.